Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to 12 Pound Podcast. Of course, there's been a few issues over the last couple of weeks. We haven't been able to do any of these podcasts. We've been on holidays, and then, of course, the bad weather the weekend absolutely wiped out Donegal for power. So we didn't get a weekend podcast on, but we're back on tonight, and we have a lot to discuss, mainly around Spurs. Another bad result for Spurs the weekend, beaten 2-1 by Leicester, who had lost 7 games on the bounce. Spurs took a first half lead before having a 5-minute capitulation. Um, the type of capitulation we've seen quite a lot this season, where Spurs seem to be in a position of comfort and throw it away with silly errors. But to be honest, it masked a pretty poor performance in general. Even at halftime, it was a really poor game. Owen, good to have you back on. What did you make of Spurs at the weekend? Did you watch the game? It was a pretty poor 90 minutes of football, to be totally honest.
I seen it. I stuck it on, and as I text you at the time, it was. I think I texted you before Spurs went 1-0 up. It was just two very very bad football sides, and at the minute, I know Spurs have circumstances, but with all the injuries they have at the minute. But God, I like. There's only so much I can say about Spurs. Like that's a new. Like they've took 1 point from Leicester this season, and that's not good enough. No matter if you have injuries or not, that Spurs side was good enough to go out and beat Leicester. So for me, it just wasn't good enough, regardless of the injuries.
Of course, this period in December and January has been really, really difficult for Spurs. They haven't picked up a lot of points at all. Really, up until that game against Man City at the end of November, you kind of say it was a topsy-turvy season. One week they were getting a good result, maybe the next week they weren't following it up. But since that sort of Man City game, it's went really, really pear-shaped. Only that one against Southampton. There has been some ones in the Europa League and in the Cups, but the only League One came against Southampton. Um, and
Yeah,
I
everyone's
think it
beaten.
does have to be. We will talk about the injuries, but they have been kind of fielding the same kind of team 3 games a week. And even when they were due to have a break, they had Liverpool in the Cup. So they've technically had 3 games every week since September. And I think it's really took its toll over the last couple of months, but we'll come on to that. But why do you think it's gone so badly wrong, so downhill? I mean, it's not just a bad run, it's diabolical. I mean, they cannot seem to even pick up a point here or there. It's losing every week. Now, a lot of these defeats are like by 1 goal margins, but at the end of the day, it's still defeats. Every game they've been on this year, I think they've only lost 1 game in the league by more than 1 goal, and that was Liverpool. Every other game they've lost has been by a single goal.
Um,
So it does seem that whilst they are losing all these games, there's been opportunities there for them to win them, and they haven't been able to take them.
it's such a strange situation. Like I've never seen a situation like it where many. I think he's of 15, 16 players, right? But
Yeah.
I seen what Carragher was saying, and I've
They've
said it all
scored.
season.
I seen a stat yesterday. They've scored the second most goals in the league, and they're sitting 15th. Only Liverpool have scored more goals. It's a crazy stat.
Aye, but then they're letting in a lot of goals, which is letting them down. But for me, I just think Ange's time's up. Really, I think he looks fed up. The players look fed up, and you said it yourself. Like you seen that Solanke getting injured in training. The players are being asked to run like mad every game. Like I seen Carragher saying last night when was it the Chelsea game when Van de Ven got injured? He was rushing to the corner flag like a madman. Pulls up his hamstring. Like he's going to come back in a few weeks' time. Maybe next week or so. What's they say he won't pull up again? Like by the way they play. So it's such a. But
But
I just think
does every team not sprint and run? And I mean, there's as much
they
chance
do.
of
I
that. I mean, football's a physical game.
they do. I and but then if teams go 2-3 up, they'll be all right. We'll sit back a bit and we'll. But he just if Spurs go 5-0 up in the game, he's still playing the same way.
Because I watched Man City and Chelsea at the weekend, and Chelsea played a very high line, halfway line, and City tore them to shreds. I mean, so there is a lot of teams playing this style of football as well, not just Spurs. Yes, Spurs is a wee bit more maybe centered on attacking, but a lot of teams now do play with high line.
They do, yeah, but I just for me, I just think we'll get on to the owners as well because that's a problem. You seen yesterday the fans. That was the first time I was watching Spurs
Really
in a
toxic.
long time, and I've heard the ground be toxic. And I don't know if you seen it, but there was a banner that got
How could you not have seen it or heard it? It was pretty evident during the game, and obviously
there
the
was
banner of
a
the 16 managers.
they got that taken down, didn't they? But
Yeah,
by
it was
by all,
confiscated.
by all accounts, by all accounts, they're back in Ange until these cup games. But to be honest, I don't see the point in it because I can't see them getting past Liverpool. I know they beat us in the first leg, but the way they are at the minute, like, I think we should win comfortably. And the Europa League's
To be fair, they run that situation a few weeks ago as well. To say that that Liverpool game was about a shock result. You couldn't have really fancied Spurs that night either.
I know, but we're us at home this time, and you are terrible at Anfield. So you haven't won there in how long? Must be a good 10 years
Don't
or
actually have
so.
to win the game, but
I know, but
yeah.
it's the way. Ange isn't going to come out and play for a draw, is he? He's going to attack, and I just I don't know how you're feeling, but for me as an outsider, I just think a change needs to be made, and I honestly think if he goes out of say he goes out of the cup to Liverpool, I think that'll be it.
I'm really torn on it. If I says after the Everton game, I think that should be it. I don't think he really should have got this week at all. But he did, and all I seen on Sunday was a team that was possibly lacking in belief, lacking in
Knackered.
confidence, certainly, and they look shattered. But then when I was thinking about it a lot today, if somebody walks in the door now, they're going to have the same players. They're going to have the same knackered players. They're going to have a squad that's really thin. There's not been a lot of backing here in this January window, and we'll speak about that in a bit. But if a team is missing, as you say, 15 players, and if you look at the bench yesterday, they had two goalkeepers on it that you probably, apart from Austin, you wouldn't have heard of him before a few weeks ago. Another goalkeeper that no one really knows, and a bunch of young kids that we haven't seen much of. I think Murrah and Lancashire have had minutes in the Europa League and Cup games, but the rest of them haven't been near the squad. And if you get the same players, then they played in Germany on Thursday evening, and it was obviously a quick turnaround. I know it was Leicester, and you expect they won, but is it unmanageable, this situation at the moment for anyone? Maybe they might have picked up a couple of more points, but if you've got the same kind of players every week, and let's be honest, it's nowhere near their first choice team. If you look at the back four is a mess completely. I mean, Dragusin for me is not a Premier League player, definitely not in a Spurs system. Ben Davis didn't look fit, and he was rushed back. Archie Gray's been on there, and he's done well, but I think he's struggled at times as well. Spence was doing well, but now he's out of the team. Reguilon's played yesterday, complete disaster. This is a really difficult situation for anyone to manage. I feel at the moment.
No, it 100% does, but you weren't playing great. You still lost games with your full team out. Like you've lost to Brighton with your full team out. You've lost to Ipswich with your full team out. Crystal Palace with your full team out. So I know it's worse since the players gone out, but Spurs have this performance on them when they have their full team, which would be my point.
Yeah, that's it. And there's been a lack of consistency really since the opening of the last season. I think Yarger done a piece on it that there's so many topsy-turvy results, but I think I don't think that was as much of the issue at the time. I think they weren't going on runs like this. At the moment, I think it's only Southampton in the last 11 games that's got less points than Spurs.
You're
And
lucky that
at the
you're
moment,
lucky
they're a
that
team that everybody would only play because they seem to be. If you're struggling and you've got Spurs next, this is your chance to get out of it. Everton, Leicester, couldn't buy a one, and all of a sudden they go and beat Spurs.
if you look at it, it was the same with Man City a couple of weeks ago. Like no one was fearing coming up against them. Everyone was like, "Right, we have Man City, we have a chance." Now it might be a bit different with the signings they made. It shows you what a couple of signings can do. But what I was saying there was, you're lucky that the bottom three is as bad as they are because if the bottom three had anything about them and Spurs were going on this run, you would be dragged into it.
I think we could be in a real state of, if we don't beat Brentford next week. I think because Ipswich is playing Southampton at home on the Saturday, and Everton playing Leicester, so it could be down to 5 or 6 points come Saturday. But as you say, I think we've got 8 points on Ipswich, or seven or 8. For Ipswich, 1 or 3 games even looks difficult. They might beat Southampton, but you're looking at that thinking, well, how many? I think you could probably stay up with 30 points So Spurs
Yep.
probably only need more ones. As much as it's worrying, you do kind of look at it and think, well, they probably only need 1, 2, or 3 more matches.
Yeah. No, well, you're speaking of which, was there like I know we scored four against them at the weekend, but it could easily have been 5 or 6. We ripped them to shreds at times.
How much of these injuries do you feel is down to bad luck, or just a real, it's almost like a machine's just breaking down and every part of it's falling off. I mean,
It
it just
was
seems like Madison's played Thursday, and all of a sudden he's got something wrong with his calf. Basuma couldn't even feature. He was on the bench. Sar says he shouldn't even have played. He wasn't even fucked, but he wanted to try and help. Ange says this is the situation that we're in at the moment. We can barely get 11 players out on the pitch. They've got so many injuries all over especially in defence. They've had 2 goalkeepers go down. I mean, I have never seen a situation like this ever. I've seen teams where you might have 5 or 6 out at the one time, and within a space of a few weeks, it seems they all seem to be very long-term injuries.
it's to me obviously there's a bit of luck involved, and you aren't getting the rub of the green in that sense. But Ange had this not this bad, but he had a similar situation at Celtic where players were dropping like flies as well. So I just think he demands so much from his players that they're going to break down. Like as I was saying there, are you confident Van de Ven will come back and knock an injury game for the rest of the season? Because
No,
I'm not.
no, but I mean, this is it. And I think from what I'm hearing this time, they've really looked after him and Romero, and they have started training there in the last couple of days, and they are possibly going to be in the team on Sunday against Brentford. I don't think they'll play on Thursday in the Europa League, but they're likely to play on Sunday. And you feel that they have to come back. Even people are saying about rushing them back, but you kind of feel that they have to play because Spurs this season rests on next week. I think they'll be okay on Thursday. I think even if they somehow lost that game, they're going to still be in. They've already qualified for the playoff round, so they would have games. But I'm sure. I think this team are very, very. They're worse than Hoffenheim. I think Spurs will find a way to beat this crowd on Thursday, and that'll secure a top 8 spot. And that means they don't play in Europe. They march.
For me, it's like Spurs may as well just put their cups or put their eggs into all the cups.
That's I think our season probably hinges on the 2 cup games. Villa or Liverpool and Villa next weekend. Ideally, getting the result of Brentford. They sort of try and push away from this sort of relegation talk. I mean, that's a massive ask.
If you don't want any of the cups he's running, you're definitely not in Europe next season, which is bad as well for Spurs.
Yeah, because even the Solanke injury, it seems to be that it was a contact injury. The reports about it being it's an MCL injury. So again, apparently it was a clash of knees. So again, that seems like a really unfortunate that's happened to him, and he's out for 6 weeks.
It's
Mario goes up for a cross, comes down and breaks his ankle. Stuff like that. All this craziness is happening around the players. I don't know why Madison's tired because he hasn't played a lot.
I've said this a lot on this podcast, but I think Madison and Postecoglou just don't get on.
It's strange because Madison spoke quite highly of Ange at the start, didn't he? But that does seem to have soured. The main question is the club and the fans think he's a man even with full side. Seems like the trust is gone already. If they lose at Anfield, do you think that'll be the final straw? I mean, it's pretty evident, and we've seen it today. If he was going to be sacked before these cup games, it would have been done today. It seems pretty clear now that he's going to get that. I think even if they lose to Brentford, they'll still be in charge for Anfield and Villa Park, and I think they'll reevaluate. But I think that the problem we've got now is it's ran on that long. We're into February now. Next week, who's going to take the job for a few months? It's going to be or at the very worst, they're going to give it the missing for a couple of months at the end of the season if things do not improve. But it seems to be that whoever they want, maybe the decision's already made. Ange and they feel they're going to go a different way in the summer, and they're just trying to get those summer, possibly try and win a trophy. I don't know, but it seems to be that whoever they maybe want to come on as an available to the summer, or they really want to give Ange an opportunity. They put it right. We these players back, but I mean it looks a long way back now. I mean for Spurs, they have any kind of half decent league position, they're going to have to go on a real run of games starting against Brentford. I mean they're going to have to win 13 or 14 of them last. Well, not third, but at least 11 or 12 of those last sort of 15 games.
And I can't see them doing that, to be honest, because
so if he goes back on the 1, 6 or 7,
I was looking at their
back into the category of one week and lose the next week.
I was looking at their games. I think he's of Brentford, and then Bournemouth is coming up, and obviously Bournemouth are in a rich vein of form at the minute, and then you have Liverpool again at some point.
There's been a lot of comparisons with Bournemouth having injured players. I think this has been throughout the last few days. They've up to 10 out injured. I went through the Bournemouth injuries and I don't recognise half the names. Most of them aren't even first team players. They're like players you'd expect them to be on the bench. Come on.
I know,
You
but
look around, there's only
they're
maybe.
still part of the squad, though.
Well, I think Evan Nelson's the most notable one that's missing.
And you now as
Yeah, but I
well.
think if you go through Spurs' injuries, they've had Vicario, Romero, and Van de Ven out for a significant period of time. They're starting two defenders and a goalkeeper. The left back, he's been out injured now for a few weeks. Porro looks absolutely shattered, and then Spence, you feel now could come on. He's injured. They've had to play a midfielder and fullbacks at centre half at times because they've had no one available. And then if you look at midfield, Basuma and Bentancur have been injured. Madison's now out injured. Johnson, the main right winners, out injured. Solanke, the main strikers, out injured. I mean, it just seems to be significant player after significant player.
Well, with Spurs to get that many injuries, it always is going to be a significant player because they have a thin squad. So if they do get a lot of injuries, it is going to be big players because they don't have the squad.
Yeah, I don't think people are too concerned about Werner and Forster, for example.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone really cares about them too. But there's a lot of them that are you would look at them and think, well, they're either going to be starting or playing a part in the game.
And then even Richarlison yesterday, I think he pulled up again, didn't he?
No, he's just tired. He only come back. But again, I know people say he's not. I think Richarlison's been a big must because Solanke's had to play every single game, and Richarlison is a proven Premier League goal scorer. Yes, he can't stay fit at times, but if he was able to come on in games, he gives you a different threat. And fought yesterday, when he went off, he was must, but they had to bring him off because he was knackered, and they cannot afford to lose him for this next run of games because Solanke's going to be absent.
The fans weren't happy when he came off, but you can sort of understand why he came off because, as you say, he's only back and you don't want to have a reoccurrence of his injury.
Another player that the Spurs fans have been really, really hoping to see a lot of this season has been Mikey Moore. And of course, he picks up a virus that kept him out for 3 months, some sort of virus. So again, it does seem to be, yes, there is a lot of these muscle injuries that, of course, the club are looking at. And people are saying, was it down to the training and whatever? But there does seem to be so many other ones that have just happened, and it's serious, serious bad luck.
Spurs must have walked under a ladder and put the shoe on the table and all the superstitions that always give you bad luck apparently. But
do you think it's bad luck or a result of them? I think, as you say, someone might be or bad or unfortunate injuries. But the other thing I would say is it has to be something to do with the training. I don't think it's going to have anything to do with the 90-minute game because Klopp's teams pressed high. They had a big high press, high line, and had to do a lot of chasing back at times. And I can only really remember that one season where they lost all their defenders. And again, that was one of them was down to an ACL injury. Was Van Dijk, which is a bit of a freakish injury. So I mean, it has to be something to do with the training. It can't be to do with what loads of teams play by a high line.
Does Ange even take training, or does someone else take it?
Somebody else takes it. He watches it. And I think that's an issue as well. But
yeah.
I think at the moment we're stuck. I think we're going to have to ride this period out. I hope Romero and Van de Ven come back now, and I do think with those back, it does start to improve a bit. I mean, I just think at the back at the moment they're a complete mess.
Even when they come back, they'll not be match fit, so they'll not be fit to play 90 minutes. But
you just need to hope now they come back fresh and get up to speed as quick as possible because it's a big week now coming up, starting on Saturday.
That's a name I've been here for a while. That's a name I've been here for a while. Darren having a laugh.
Everyone's laughing. How much responsibility do you think the manager needs to take for these results in December and January? Because let's go through them. Draw 1 each with Fulham. Then they lost.
You were down to 10 men, by the way.
What's that?
Fulham were down to 10 men, by the way, as well.
Yeah, and then they lost to Bournemouth 1-0. Then they lost to Chelsea 4-3. Then they beat Southampton 5-0. Then they played
Liverpool.
Who did they play? Liverpool beat 6-3. Forest 1-0. Beaten by Forest 1-0. Drew by Wolves 2 each. Beat by Newcastle 2-1. And then that one Everton, they were beat 3-2, and Leicester they were beat 2-1. So, like we said again, I think in every one of those games, there's been opportunity, other than the Liverpool game, really, there's been opportunities for Spurs to get results.
Uh,
Um, the
it's
Bournemouth
strange.
game, to be fair, they were awful. They were beat 1-0 and should have been beat by more. But the Forest game was a scrappy enough game. The Chelsea
Yeah.
game, they were 2-0 up in. They really could have done more on. Everton, they never got started, to be fair. And the Leicester game, they free out away at the weekend. I mean, 1-0 up at half time against a team that didn't really look like they were capable of anything. They throw it away in a period of 5 months. And if you look at the second goal they conceded, how much of that can you put on the manager? Because it just looked like two players making two basic mistakes.
I think it was Bentaker, wasn't it? And Poro, was it?
And horrible.
I know, but again, that's the way he tells him. I know James is the
But
manager.
it was a 5-yard pass. I mean, they both of them messed up the simple pass to each other.
Now there's certain things that sort of has control, like, but I think I just think the manager, the players, the board. We'll speak about the board. I just think Spurs as a club at the minute is just rotten from the outside. Like, you're a Spurs fan. I have I have no horse in it, like, but seeing all the Levy out stuff. I know I don't like FSG, but I don't think I've ever heard that from our fans. Like, and if it gets any worse, it's going to get even more toxic. And then if you just say he's go out of all the cups and he's go out of all the cups and he's keep losing league games, like, there's only so much more it can go on for.
Yeah. The one thing that I would say that I think has been really, really tough for him is that they are asking players that have never played in the Premier League or have very little experience of the Premier League to try and manage this period. Like Archie Gray's come from the Championship, Lucas Bergvall's come from Sweden, the goalkeeper's just come in from the Czech Republic. Spence hasn't had a lot of
He's
Premier
not a
League
great
experience.
goalkeeper either.
He looks okay, but I think he's a backup goalkeeper. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
Vicario comes back and he's your main keeper. Mikey Murr's been asked to come on in games, and he's only 17. They've so many youngsters that are really, really, having them all on the pitch together is really difficult. You're asking Archie Gray to play centre half out of position.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what else he can do. I mean, I thought January was the time to give him a wee bit of support, and for whatever reason, the club have not done that.
Maybe
And
that's
then
it. Maybe they haven't supported him because they know he's not going to be there in the summer.
But then you could make that argument. But if that's the case, why not just give Ryan Mason the job at the end of the season now? What is the value of keeping Ange in place if they've already decided that they're going to go a different way in the summer?
Well,
I think there's definitely probably discussions behind closed doors that if form doesn't improve by the end of the season, they'll have an idea of who they want. But I still think they're giving them an opportunity to try and turn this around when these players come back. And I think for the club not to bring players in this month is pretty poor. I mean, they're desperate for players. Even when they have players fit, the squad's still not big enough for enough quality. I mean, we just rhymed off all those youngsters there, all those teenagers.
No, it's
and
shocking.
most of them all look talented. It's a big ask to get them playing regularly 3 times a week and, getting used to this kind of level. And you ideally need to surround them with experience. And they're all looking to each other at the moment for that kind of, what's the word? Trying to lean on those players for experience. I mean, you've Archie Gray beside a centre half like Dragus, and that's not doing him any favours. So I can't believe the club haven't acted. I mean, the word out of the club is it's been a very difficult market to get players on, as all our clubs have found out, like Arsenal haven't done any business whilst they're desperate for an attacking player. Spurs have not been able to get anyone on apart from that goalkeeper. One other thing as well, apparently, which is making it even more difficult, is apparently they've spoken to certain players and he says, well, look, Spurs is 15th. I'm not sure if I want to go there. So I do feel a bit sorry for Ange at the moment because I do feel that everything's going against him.
I just don't think he's good. To be honest, I just don't think he's good enough. I think yes, he has injuries. Yes, but you see some of the stuff in the media too. He's getting spiky in interviews now. The whole I know he's being bit from power to post, but as Callum says, Liverpool and Spurs are similar in terms of ownership. We needed a centre back. The year that we lost our centre backs, we brought in Ozan Kabak on loan and Ben Davis, who never kicked the ball. So it's whether you bring them in for 6 months and then they're never going to play again. So is it really worth it?
So in your opinion, then you think regardless, he shouldn't really be given this opportunity next week when certain players are back. They try and save or turn around the season.
No, because in my eyes, we've seen evidence when they've had the main players that results like that can still happen.
Yeah. Because, I mean, let's be honest, if Spurs were to go to Anfield and get a result, all of a sudden this season looks a lot different, doesn't it? I mean, not that I think you could forget about everything else, but if you had offered Spurs fans a final against possibly Newcastle in March at the start of the season, they would have taken your hand off it.
I know, but even if you do get past those, I think Newcastle will be favourites. Just based on form at the moment.
There's a lot to go, but the final isn't the middle of March. That's the only thing.
Yeah, true. But
to be honest, the three games we played against Newcastle this year, they've won them both, but I thought we probably should have won both of them, and that was with players. The second game, players missing. But look, I think it's one of those finals that.
What's your What's your opinion?
A lot of pressure, won.
What's your opinion on? Do you think he sees out the season, or do you think he'll go?
Depends. It depends on the league form. To be honest, I don't even think it'll come down to the cups because. Let's be honest. If they don't beat Liverpool, then I don't know what you can blame them for. If we go to Liverpool and get beat 2-1, well, Liverpool should really be beating us, and it's not going to be a full-strength Spurs team. So, I mean, I don't know why you would be being judged on that. I mean, I think it's a miracle they won the first game. Looking at every hour result outside of that Liverpool game, it's difficult to understand how Spurs did win that game because...
we didn't turn up. That's simple. We weren't at our best.
And that's the only thing. That is the only thing that, with all the negativity, we seen that night that was a semi-final, and the players almost found energy from somewhere. I'm just kind of hoping that they find that kind of energy and realize we're 90 minutes from Wembley. We've got an opportunity to turn this season around.
I'm not. I hope you play the way you're playing.
Why do you think the club haven't backed them in January? We don't know the ins and outs of it, but why do you think they've struggled to bring on players?
It could be a number of things. It could be, as you said, Spurs are ringing up players, and they come in and they're going, Spurs are in a bad state right now. Is it good for my career to move there in the short term? In the long term, it might be, but in the short term, it won't be, because if Spurs go to a club, just I don't know, pick a player. If Spurs goes to, I don't know, like Bournemouth, to try and get a Semenyo or something, they would just say no, because Bournemouth are going to qualify for Europe or try to qualify for Europe. So I think, and when people say it's a difficult market, it is, but we got Van Dijk for 75 million in January. So deals can be done. Man City, apparently, I don't know if you know this, but apparently Spurs wanted Marmoush. Was it last year?
Wouldn't pay the money.
It's the same with Liverpool.
Constant name on it. I think if you do want a cup, you're in danger of doing it to Ten Hag. No, I think even if they won a trophy and the league form didn't improve, they would still make a change in the summer. I think they would say, well, do you know what? We've won a trophy, but league form's just not going to. This is not acceptable, so we need to go a different way. But I think that, and the Ten Hag thing is evidence out there to suggest why maybe that would be a good thing for Spurs. They learn from that.
Yeah.
Ange hasn't been backed. Why did he change tactics? Why has he not changed tactics? Well, I think he tried to do that against Everton, didn't he? And it was a mess. And this is a problem.
He went to the back of Everton, didn't he?
What's that then? You could tell that system wasn't really trained much on, because the players hadn't a clue what to do. We've talked a lot about Ange, Owen, but as you said yesterday, the main sort of abuse was being heard from the Spurs fans was towards the ownership. And of course, one man in particular, Daniel Levy, who's overseen 16 managers in 24 years and only managed to pick up one trophy. So regardless of what people think about Ange, the evidence is there in front of you. We're going to be sitting here in 2 years' time again with a new manager, possibly saying the same things about this manager. So, I mean, has any manager got a chance? They succeed. Now, let's be honest. Regardless of, where they should be, they shouldn't be 15th, and that's a bigger issue in itself. I do not think that's Daniel Levy's fault where they are. I think there's a lot of mitigating circumstances why they are where they are now. But in terms of being a team that finishes fifth, sixth, fourth, some years maybe might get to a final, lose a final against one of the so-called better teams. How are they going to bridge that gap under this owner? Because it seems at the moment that they're unable to do that. I mean, it's looking like the Pochettino was a fluke. They had
seems
a
like
lot. They had a Harry Kane coming through, a generational player. They struck gold by Dele Alli coming out of the League One that took a Premier League by storm. They signed Ericsson for next to nothing, who became a top player. They had a Moussa Dembele, who really there's not too many of them around. He's been irreplaceable. They had a brilliant partnership with Alderweireld and Vertonghen. They had Walker, who was one of probably the best right back to play in the Premier League. Danny Rose was playing well at that time.
Lloris too.
So it seemed like everything fit at the time, and they weren't spending any money then. But it seems like that was a complete fluke. And picking up Pochettino at the time was probably a bit of a fluke as well. So ever since they made that decision to sack him, and he was obviously starting to struggle towards the end of his tenure, they haven't really been able to get back to those levels. So, other than that, there's been no real other moments of Levy's tenure where you've says, well, you can see the Spurs team maybe doing something. Other than that, there's not really been that feeling around the club.
It's a strange one because you have tried the managers, they come on and won. You have tried the Contes and you have tried the Mourinho's, and now you're trying the Anges. Liverpool have had 13 managers in 50 years.
Well, I mean, it's about to be 17 if we read to believe what he could be sacked after this cup game. But
yeah, it's
Ryan back in charge for a third time. I mean, this is just getting out of hand. But I mean, I think there does have to be this does need looking at. I mean, if Ange is sacked either now or the summer, I mean, how can the Spurs fans get behind an our manager? Because they just know what's coming.
It's obviously it's a different situation. You're on about clubs not being backed. Like Slot hasn't been really backed. I know he's come on a much better squad, but it's the same sort of situation. I'm screaming my head. And look at Liverpool too with the contract situations. So I know how you're feeling in terms of ownership. It's not great, but if
the difference with Liverpool at the moment is they're top of the league. If Liverpool had been sitting mid-table, then all this talk about Slot not being backed and contract talk would have been toxic as well. So obviously a lot of it comes down to league position and why Spurs are struggling. If Spurs are sitting top of the league now, nobody won't be saying anything about Daniel Levy. Despite so it's all down to where they are in the pitch. But I mean, if you look at Ange since they've come in, they've signed Solanke, Madison, Van de Ven. They're the only three players I think that have come on that have walked into the team. The rest of them are all. You could say Johnson, I suppose, has been a mainstay, but the rest of them, Bergville, Gray, Werner. I think Vicario was a fluke as well. I don't think they expected him to be as good as he was.
Dragusin as well.
Dragusin's not worked. Udogie was a young player come on that's done well.
Yeah.
So a lot of the players that Ange has been given, apparently he has a hand in it as well. But it's not to say they're shopping. They're not shopping at the top table Spurs at the moment. They're. I mean, you wouldn't even say they're shopping in the middle floor. I would say they're looking at players that could be. I will obviously, but they're looking at players like Archie Gray and Bergville that could be great players in 5 years' time, or knowing Daniel Levy could be sold to Real Madrid or Barcelona for 130 million. God knows, So. And now I'm hearing this week that they are expected to bring at least one more. They think they'll be able to get one player on before the transfer window shuts. And the most linked player at the moment is Tyler Dublin, 18 years old from Southampton. And we've already seen these 18-year-olds take time. They work. So what's Tyler Dublin going to do? He's a talented player, no doubt about it. But what's he going to do for us now? We're in a mess. So
no, it's sort of kicking the can down the road a bit, isn't it? If you sign him, he comes on and does a few things, but he's not going to propel you to the top four, like, is he? I don't think.
Ange has been talking about all this young talent that's coming through. He won't be here to see it if these results continue. So it's up to Daniel Levy in the next week. The transfer window closes in a week today. They're going to have to get They're going to have to go and try and get, even if it means overpaying or convincing a player to join. I mean, their spend to wage ratio is the lowest in the league. So for how much they spend compared to what they're spending on wages,
What's your gut feeling? Do you think they'll get a player on?
no, nobody significant, to be honest. I think there's talk of Daniel or Tyler Dublin and Angel Gomez being completed, but not until the summer.
And that's not going to do you any good, is it?
No, and to be fair, Gomez boy looks talented. I've seen him playing for England a couple of times, but again, very young player. I think he's 19.
He was on United's books, wasn't he?
So I mean, you're going down that road again, but and I do get the if Marmoush has got an option of going to Man City or Spurs, he's probably going to pick Man City 99 times out of 100. But that's why you got to be on the ball. You got to move fast. You got to move quick, and you got to get these players on.
I know it was a different manager, but it was the same way. It was the same with Diaz a few years ago. Spurs were haggling and going on that they wanted him. Liverpool went down, bang, got him straight away.
I don't mean 28 or 29. I mean players like Madison, Solanke, 25, 26, peak sort of coming under their peak, signing at the right time, have had plenty of experience. And you can tell by Solanke, if we had assigned Solanke when he was 19, he wouldn't have been able to do half the job he's doing for us now. All of a sudden, he's learned from his experiences. He's got experiences, and I think he's been a great signing.
To be fair, I think we signed him when he was 19, 20.
Yeah, it's a different type of Solanke now. So, I mean, that's why you see a lot of these youngsters that are let go by clubs, and then they come back and do brilliant at other clubs. It's because they're just not ready. And,
do you want Nunes on them?
No, and there's that. And you're looking at Archie Gray, and you're thinking he's going to be a great player, but you just tell it's too soon for him to be doing what he's doing. And Berwickville the same. These players need support, but they're all playing together, and it's just.
What Archie Gray needed was obviously if Spurs had a fit team, but when Archie Gray was signed, I think it was expected for him to play a couple of league games, a couple of cup games, just to bet him in. But he's been asked to play centre back. I think he played right back at one point. He's played midfield, left back. So he's been everywhere.
But that's the type of signings that they need. Those two there have definitely improved Spurs. When we've seen Madison at his best, he's been a massive player for us, and Solanke's been excellent this season as well. So, they're the ones that you're counting on, and there needs to be more of those signings.
Do you think there's been a fall?
Right? As I said, we've said there, Solanke was the only real first team signing made in the summer, and you could possibly say Madison and Van de Ven the year before, and that was also the same one though that they lost Kanan, by the way. So they haven't exactly backed this manager to the hilt.
No,
in my opinion, I think they've just sold him short. And to be honest with you, in January they've left them out to dry, not been able to bring in any players. With all these games, I mean, Spurs have had Premier League, League Cup, FA Cup, and Europa League all in January. So they basically had a game every few days, and they've had to play virtually the same team in every game, bar maybe one or two changes, and most of those changes have been enforced.
It is difficult, but what I'm saying is, do you think, like, say if Ange got sacked tomorrow, do you think he walks in our Premier League job in a year's time? Like, not the maybe the level where Spurs want to get there, but I think he would definitely down mid-table team. I would definitely pick him because you're going to get entertaining football. But look, it's desperate at the moment. We're just looking at these next games. And we were saying, of course, they've got Elfsborg in the Europa League on Thursday at home, one of the lowest ranked teams in the competition. If you don't want that, there's no point giving them the Liverpool game.
Well, they beat Hoffenheim, didn't they? So you probably think they'll probably win this game, but it is a big game because this could really help us. If we won this game, it would save the possibility of having to play those two games in February, and it would take us straight into the last 16. If we won, we're guaranteed to be in the top 8.
Yeah.
So that would save us 2 games in February, and it would. Let's be honest, if you're down to the last 16, then all of a sudden you get a half decent draw. You could be in a quarterfinal, and then you start to think,
it's only really United, isn't it? I know there's a few other teams in there, but
Lazio are the team at the minute that's run away with it, but they don't seem to be pulling up too many trees in Italy.
No.
So again, but look, the thing about this format is, and you're probably going to find out pretty soon, unless he's going to win it, is that. This format, Liverpool could win all 8 games and lose the next round. It really counts for nothing in the end. So to be honest with you, I'm just looking to finish in the top 8. I really don't really care if it's first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, or eighth.
I know we're probably going to win it, but as you say, if we finish 8th, the first, it doesn't really make a difference.
Yeah. And they say it's like even easier draw, but we'll speak about it when we're doing looking at the games this week later on. There's so many teams that have maybe underperformed, so it's not going to be exactly the way you think it'll go. You know what I mean? You could end up drawing Real Madrid in the
Actually,
quarterfinal with the game.
I don't know how you feel about it, but I didn't like this format at the start, but I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, we'll come on to talk about it at the end. It does matter because of the seeding. But that it does matter because of the seeding, but that depends on if let me
Where the
see.
other teams
I'm trying to
finished.
think of a team. Aston Villa finished 4th, and Real Madrid finished 18th. Who would you rather play over 2 games in the quarterfinal? You'd rather play Aston Villa still. So it really doesn't. You want to avoid Real Madrid over 2 games.
Even though even though we've played Real Madrid in the group stages, so to speak, can we still play them now in the knockouts? Like this round? Right.
Yeah. You'll know more after Wednesday on the Champions League and, of course, the Europa League on Thursday. Well, and let's look back at some of our weekend results. Of course, Liverpool beat Ipswich by 4 goals. They won. A really comfortable victory for Liverpool. And it looked like it was possibly going to be another extension to the points tally. But Wolves then found themselves in the 10 men, and Arsenal found a way they won. And we'll speak about Arsenal in a minute. But suppose just as you were, at the moment, that's good enough for Liverpool. It's an hour game closer. They left in the league, and the points tally stays the same.
Well, as I was looking at earlier, our fixtures now after this game become a bit tougher. If we have Bournemouth at the weekend, then obviously the Merseyside derby, so that's going to be tough. But in terms of this game, like, it's what I expected. I'm disappointed that we conceded near the end, but I think the most of us being a one-man team with Salah have sort of been busted over the last few weeks and months. I think Gakpo's really stepped up. Sabasai starting to find his best. So I'm happy doing it. And yes, the other teams might have won at the weekend, but as long as we keep tagging along and winning, they're not gonna catch us.
Yeah, what do you think you'll do on Wednesday? Do you think you rest everybody?
No, I think
all he needs is a draw.
Yeah.
They confirm that top spot. Barcelona, technically, if Liverpool were to lose and Barcelona were to win, Liverpool would finish second.
Who are Barca playing?
I'll tell you now who Barca have. Barca do have a better goal difference. So if Liverpool failed to win and Barcelona won, they would jump above Liverpool. But again, I don't know what difference does that really make. It would still mean you couldn't play Barca to the final because first and second.
Nah.
I mean, you couldn't play them to the final.
It's a no. I think he'll play a mixed team. Like he'll play. I think he'll play like players who need minutes, like Chiesa and Nunez.
Barcelona or home day Atalanta, so not easy.
Oh, tough. I think he'll play like Chiesa, Kelleher, centre back. I think he'll play Kwanzaa and Endo maybe. I'd be surprised if we see like Salah and anything, but Salah's one of them just wants to play every game. So it'll be interesting.
So Liverpool's fixtures coming up here, of course, PSV on Wednesday night in the Champions League away. This is a draw will be enough to secure top spot. Bournemouth away on Saturday, which is going to be difficult. I think they're probably the most informed team in the country in terms of how they're winning games. So they're absolutely I know Liverpool's on a good run too, but Bournemouth are just hammering everybody at the moment, and good teams as well. All teams have struggled to beat. I mean, Newcastle and Forest were playing, and then they ran on the Bournemouth, and it was a completely different story. So after Bournemouth, it'll be Spurs in the cup, and then away to Plymouth, and then they have that game in hand away to Everton, and then it's home to Wolves, and then away to Man City, home to Newcastle. Finishes the end of February. So looking at that February,
it's tough.
It looks quite tricky because you've got Bournemouth away, Everton away, Man City away, and Newcastle at home in there. And of course, they also play Wolves at home. So not that you'd like to think, but I mean, if Liverpool were to come through February and still have that 9-point gap, assuming they take advantage of the Everton game in hand, I mean that's as good as one hand on the title, surely.
I said that I would like if you offered them, I'd take 3 wins. Like obviously I want to win them all, but I have to say, I agree. I think Gakpo's been probably. Our for me. Maybe Calum will disagree, but for me,
I think it will be crazy on Wednesday night. They risk any of the big hitters because if any of them get injured,
I don't think.
I mean, they can't finish any lower than second. So,
Yeah,
and I mean, they could still realistically lose this game, and Barcelona still have to go and beat Atlanta as well. So that's not a gimme.
yeah.
And Barcelona's games are basketball esque at the moment. They were fortunate they won that last game.
They won
Um,
7. They won 7-1 last night.
I'm not sure Barcelona can win the Champions League playing like that. It might be
No,
entertaining and it's great to watch, and I've watched most of their games because they've been excellent. But I think you'll run into somebody that's that'll find a way to counteract that, and
yeah.
you'll be in trouble.
Like I think
Uh,
I don't know. It's the Champions League is a difficult one because there's so many. There's so many. Can't believe Bournemouth is a 3 o'clock. I'll still find a way to watch it. Don't you worry.
it's actually the live game on Premier Sports Ireland on Saturday. So if anyone in the south that's watching Premier Sports, it'll be on
Right,
there. At 3 o'clock on Saturday.
I'm coming to your house on Saturday. But no,
Barcelona is
no.
what Ange wants to be.
It's no, it's gonna be a tough run. Like, but as I said to you last night when we were texting, like I'm confident against anyone at the moment.
I think Bournemouth will be feeling the same, but I
No, they
think
won't.
they would be happy to play anyone at the moment. So it'll be an interesting game. And at the moment, everything they seem to hit goes on. And those boys, Utara, Semenyo, and Clivert, are a real handful at the moment. So that will be a very interesting game on Saturday. And no doubt, Arsenal will be looking at that and thinking there's possibility we could take advantage. But of course, Arsenal play Man City on Sunday, so
Well,
not easy either.
if we beat Bournemouth and Man City beat Arsenal, I'd take that for the weekend. Like.
Yeah.
I
Let's
don't
look at
like
Arsenal
I
because
don't
they
like
were
cheering on Man
outraged.
City, but I don't like cheering
I
on
think
Man City, but I might have to this weekend.
But Arsenal were outraged with the decision to send Lewis Skelly off, and of course Wolves then got a man. João Gomez got sent off for 2 yellow cards. Arsenal went on, they won it with Calafiore scoring a really good goal, and Arsenal really they needed that goal to stay in there, and they have hung in there for another week at least.
Yeah.
But at the moment, I know Liverpool had a fine like goals against Brentford. But it does seem at the moment that Arsenal are really having to dig deep just to stay in the race, whereas
Yeah.
Liverpool are looking pretty formidable at the moment. So, of course, they have to try and stay in there and hope Liverpool struggle in these next few games. But Arsenal are playing a different kind of Man City now, a rejuvenated Man City next week, so that'll be interesting. But what was your thoughts on the Lewis Skelly red card? Because Michael Oliver's come under a lot of pressure, and there is starting to look like there is something there with him and Arsenal. Whether that's down to I remember watching a podcast with Phil Dowd, and he says he used to hate doing Wigan games. Not that he hated doing Wigan, but he says whenever I was refereeing Wigan, I always tended to have a controversial decision and it went against them. Just whatever game it was, either missed a penalty or sent somebody off that shouldn't have been off. And it does seem to be now with Arsenal, and Michael Oliver has run into a few issues.
It's like I said, it's like Paul Tierney in Liverpool when Klopp was a manager. It's the same. Like Andy Taylor with Chelsea. But I will say one thing. I think some of the abuse he got, like death threats and all, was absolutely disgusting. And people who do that need to be seriously looked at. Because as much as I bash referees, I would never go into the personal side of it. But for me, that was
Why
probably
do you think this is happening so much? Because we've seen Arsenal fans do it to Havertz's wife.
it's just people online who think they can.
I was absolutely fuming yesterday, but I never thought, right, I'm going to go on the Son's personal page here and start hammering him. I mean, he was disgraceful. He's been poor on this, he's been terrible. And, I don't think it's because it's a lack of effort. I just think it's just not happening for him at the moment. And likewise with Havertz, I don't think Havertz is missing those chances on his own. And likewise yesterday, I think Michael Oliver just made a mistake. And I think the VAR really needed to help him out, and for whatever reason, reluctantly didn't get involved.
No, it was one of the, for me, that was probably the worst red card decision I've seen all season, and there's been a few.
Do you think Arsenal have been on the wrong end of a lot this season? There has been certain ones where, the time was the one. I don't think you can really argue with what happened, but it does seem to be that our teams have gotten away with it, where Arsenal have been punished for it.
Maybe
the
it's
red
just
card with Saliba, there was one the next day. Was it the Chelsea game with Cowell? He was sent off, and I do think the Saliba one was. It does seem to be that Arsenal are on the wrong end of all these sort of 50-50 calls where other clubs are kind of getting away with.
I think people are just fed up with Arsenal time wasting and crying about everything. Like one week the ball's different. Like that was and that was the maddest thing that he said. All the balls difference in the Carabao in the FA Cup than it is the league. Like
I do think there is some merit in this. I do think referees have just had enough of Arsenal and the time wasting
yeah,
and the taking forever for a corner, taking forever for a free kick, taking forever to take a throw in. And I also think Arteta's antics on the sideline where he's nearly on the pitch, I don't think that's helping them at all.
no, it was sort of the same way. As much as I love Klopp, he used to break referees a good bit as well, and he used to come back and bite us at times. So I just think, obviously, not saying it was red, but he did go with it.
I think it was a yellow card maximum.
It wasn't a red, and I think it'll be overturned. But I saw someone saying that because Arsenal are playing Newcastle in the League Cup, Michael Oliver's he's obviously a Newcastle fan. So someone was saying he sent him off so he couldn't play in that game.
I just can't imagine referees would go out with that type of mindset, to be honest. But
yeah, well, David Cook obviously did, so you never know.
But I mean, the last game he referee was a Liverpool game, and he could have given Villa 2 penalties, and he didn't. So
he wasn't on drugs, I think.
How do you know? We spoke about Bournemouth a little bit earlier there. Of course, a big 5-0 win against Forest. Forest may be higher in the table, but do you think Bournemouth's a better team?
I like the way Bournemouth play. They're just front foot. They don't. I think I like their centre back pairing at the minute. It's Housen and what do you call the other boys?
It's a Bernie. It's a Bernie or something.
I think it's I think it's I seen a stat on TNT Sports today that it said they haven't lost a game in the last 7 when them two have started. So hopefully that ends in
they've only
Saturday, obviously.
Scored. They've only conceded something like 2 goals in 8 games or something. So they're scoring and keeping the back door shut. Usually it's what they are. We see with Forest, they're this is an anomaly for Forest. Usually their games are all tight games where they don't score that many, but they concede quite few. But their last couple of games has been a bit erratic in terms of they beat Southampton 3-2, and then they've lost this one 5-0. And I think
should have beat them.
Yeah, well, up until 1-0, Forest looked comfortable, and then they won each. It was a different type of game, and Forest were kind of hanging on. And it seems to be that solid partnership that they had Milinkovic and Murillo seems to have just not been there in the last couple of games. So maybe the pressure of the situation now, because I think if Forest don't finish in the top 4 from here, they'll see it as a huge missed opportunity because Man City have been off. Chelsea have or top 5, whatever it is. I think if Forest don't get into the Champions League, they'll see it as a massive missed opportunity because other than Liverpool and Arsenal, every other team has had problems.
Here, Bournemouth are on a chance as well. They're not too far off it.
Yeah,
I would love to see. I would love to see a Forest or a Bournemouth get into the Champions League because it's good for the league in my opinion.
The problem being though, they won't be able to cope. They will not be able to cope with it, and there's a good chance they could end up being relegated next season because of it, because they'll not be able to cope with the amount of games unless they go out and spend a fortune, which you can't really do anymore. We've seen Newcastle.
I think Bournemouth will be looking for a new manager in the summer anyway, because I think Areola will be heading somewhere. But
I think if you're Spurs now, you put the wheels in motion.
You put the feelers out there.
I think the evidence tells you that even if Ange gets these players back, I'm not sure how much further he can take this group. I think it needs somebody with a bit more finesse. Somebody with a bit more finesse, just and a bit more tactical awareness. I think he could be the man. But look, Bournemouth to Spurs is a big jump. We've seen Potter to Chelsea, didn't work. We've seen managers come from sort of mid-table teams that have done well. Moyes, for example, done it with Everton, done it with West Ham, went to United, struggled. It's a different ball game. You're expected to win more or less every week when you're at one of these big clubs, and if you go on a bad run, you're under serious pressure. And I think even Amram alluded to that. He's new in the door and he's had issues. So Bournemouth, really impressive at the moment. It will be interesting to see what happens with Areola in the summer. Man City beat Chelsea by 3-1. Chelsea got off to a lightning start. A nightmare debut for the young centre-back. And Chelsea had a massive chance to go 2-0 up. But I have to say, after that opening spell, Man City were dominant, really, and could have won by more goals.
Right.
It actually looked a bit Spurs-esque, that Chelsea type. They were very high line, conceded a lot of chances, created a few, but it just looked like one ball to the top, and they were all at sea. And I think I said this when Spurs played Chelsea in the game I was at. Everyone was sort of praising. I just thought they outscored us on the day, and we made more mistakes than them. I think Chelsea's style is very, very similar to the Spurs one, where it's all about outscoring the opposition.
But
They give up a
I
lot of
think
chances, and the
they're-
goalkeeper's poor.
I was going to come on to that. I think for at least two of them goals, he should have done a lot better.
Yeah,
Like I
it,
think
it,
was
it,
it
it just. I think we seen Man City were exposed against PSG, and it looked at the early part of this game they're going to be exposed again. But I definitely think the signing of Marmoush gives them a lot more firepower. They looked a different animal going forward with him on the team.
no, he looked good. But if you remember at one point, I think it was 1-0. Palmer was through, but he doesn't shoot
That's
it.
the
He
one
tried to.
I
He,
passed it. Yeah.
when normally he would just slot it in there. So Chelsea hurt us too. If people were saying well, Maresca was saying we're not title challengers, and he's been proven right, really, hasn't he?
Well, I don't think he can win anything with a goalkeeper like that.
No, it was like us with Karius and Manuel. We weren't going to go anywhere with him.
Only 1-1 for Chelsea since that draw with Everton. They've been done a really patchy run since. Only that one against Wolves last week. The rest of it have been draws or defeats and slipped right down the table now. For a team that was sort of sitting second and third, they're way down the table, and I think they're stuck for seventh.
They're stuck that before Christmas. We were saying I think it was before the Liverpool Spurs game. If they had to beat Everton, they would have been sitting top of the league going on that game. And now they're sixth. So shows you how quick football can change.
The final game we're going to look at was the final game of the weekend. I'll tell you what, this was an awful game. Whatever it is about this fixture, Fulham Man United just seems to be such a bad game. I watched the one in the first game of the season was per. This game last year was a half 12 game.
Fernandez
awful game of football as well. So whatever it is about these games, they always seem to be hard to watch. And I seen it was the lowest XG created in any game this season in the league. So there wasn't a lot of goal manufacturing chances.
There was no shots on target until the second half, was there?
Fortune. What's that?
There was no shots on target until the second half, I think.
I think a huge slice of fortune for the goal as well. And Fulham will be kicking themselves because United were there for the ticking, and Fulham couldn't really produce enough quality to break them down. And United get a big one. And I'm not to say he's under any pressure, but I think there was a lot of pressure getting into this game on Amram because of his comments, and they've won the game 1-0.
Yeah.
But I said to a lot of people, I think this is the right man for United. I thought the comments were a bit crazy, but I think he knows he's got the backing of the club, he's got the backing of most of the players. And I love the way that they won the game 1-0, and he just stormed straight down the tunnel because he knows it wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if Spurs had won that game yesterday, Ange would have been doing a lap of the pitch, and it was a poor performance. So I think you can see with Amram, there's a real sort of determination. They improve him. And I think even when he won games like this, and he wasn't happy with that performance at all going forward, at least.
No, I wouldn't be. But did you hear what he said today too about Rashford? He said he'd rather put the goalkeeping coach on the bench than Rashford at the minute.
So he's coming out with all these claims. That's the thing that he has to be very careful how he goes about it. But I think there is a general from the club that a lot of these players are going to have to move on and new ones come on. So
that's what I'm saying.
We'll see a lot more about when he gets his players together.
He doesn't have the players for his system. Like when you look at that starting, I don't think Fernandez particularly fits his system. I don't think obviously Garnacho doesn't. Do you think United will finish top 10? No.
To be honest with you, James, I think if they had to play every game away from home, they would be all right. But I think when they go to Old Trafford and they're expected to go on the front foot a bit more, they just can't cope with it, and the pressure at Old Trafford is too much. I think when they can go to places like Fulham, or if they go away to Bournemouth, for example, I think they can just sit back because there's a general acceptance. Well, do you know what? They're probably better than us at the moment.
It's like what they did.
Solid and hit them in the break.
Sort of what they did at Anfield too, when everyone was thinking we were going to go and win. They just went. Nah.
Well, that's that. You look at their ones that they've beat Fulham away, they've drew Liverpool away, they've beat Man City away, and they've beat Arsenal away in the cup. So they're tough places to go, and they've come through all those. But then it's the home games. Lost to Newcastle, lost to Bournemouth, lost to Brighton.
Who do they have in the league this week?
United. Who do they have?
I know they're playing Europa League on Thursday, but I don't know who their league game is.
At home on Sunday.
They'll probably lose that.
Owen, we spoke about the Champions League and the Europa League coming to an end there. I think a lot of people are quite excited for Wednesday and Thursday night just because all these games on at the one time. The table's going to be changing quite a lot. What has your thoughts been on the new format itself? Do you think it's made it more exciting than it was under the sort of group stage format?
At the start, I didn't, but I'm coming around it. Once I was sort of confused as everyone was about how it was working, but I'm sort of coming around it now. Yeah.
Suppose it makes no difference. These have won every game anyway, so it makes no.
But no, like uh, I think it does have more jeopardy. Like, who would have thought Man City need the one they go through to the next stage?
That's the one thing that I was going to say to you, right? Has it added more jeopardy? Because Man
Mm.
City have been desperate in the Champions League, yet they've got a home game against Club Brugge where they know if they won, they're through. Whereas in a group stage format, I'm not sure they would have been able to finish in the qualifying
Third.
spots with this kind of run of form. Though they probably would have been good under Europa
If
League.
they draw, are they out completely, or are they playoff?
They have to win.
You would expect them to win, wouldn't you?
They have to win to get a playoff. They can't finish in the top eight.
No. It is strange because, as you say, like if this was last year and they were playing this bad, they would have been out.
Well, this is it.
So
So I think it gives it's given these bigger teams. Madrid were struggling for a bit there, and PSG were struggling, and all of a sudden now it looks like these teams are all going to go through.
well, I think PSG will go like still. I don't know.
Well, PSG's above Man City now, aren't they? Because they've won. So I think
Uh,
PSG. I'm not sure. We'll get a look at the fixtures here. We'll go through these games and we'll call out some of the ones that are going to be the most
that was
kind
a
of
good.
jeopardy involved in them.
That was a good game last week. PSG and Man City. I enjoyed that one.
Yeah. So I'll bring up the table here, right? So the top 24 go through. Stuttgart are on 24th spot on 10 points. Sporting Lisbon are on 23rd on 10 points. And PSG are on 22nd on 10 points. Man City are just outside the top 24. They're in 25th spot with 8 points. So only a one for Man City will be enough. And of course, one of the teams that they're playing is actually in the top 24 is Club Brugge. They're in 20th spot on 11 points. So Man City would draw level them on points, but their goal difference is as better than them. So they would definitely take the spot of Club Brugge. If Man City beat Club Brugge would need Stuttgart, Sporting Lisbon, or PSG or Benfica to lose. So
Yeah.
that's gonna be an interesting one. I think. Uh, kind of think that Man City, Dynamo Zagreb are the only two outside the top 24 that can qualify. I think the next down Shakhtar on 7 points, and their goal difference is that bad. Even if they won, they're probably not going to make it. So
It's
it seems to be that's going to be two from. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 8 teams between 19th and 26th, and 2 of those is going to miss out. Of qualification. I think from Celtic up, everyone else is kind of fine. Celtic's qualified, so everyone else has qualified from Celtic up,
but
either
then
in a
you
playoff
flip that too.
or.
You were saying it gives Man City a bigger chance, but Celtic wouldn't have qualified last year, and they have this year. So you sort of flip it.
Yeah, they might go through, but they also have an extra round they play. Likely get a harder 16 tie. Yep, no, of course. So let's look at some of these games. On Aston Villa take on Celtic. Aston Villa on 13 points in 9th spot, 1 point. Sorry, just they're 1 goal behind Leverkusen in that 8th spot. So you'd probably think a 1 for Villa would give them a decent chance of finishing in the top 8 against Celtic. Celtic would have to win. They have any chance of getting under the top 8, but they would need a lot of things to go their way. So I think Celtic are going to be resigned to the playoff spot, whereas Villa can that way 1 would probably give themselves a fair chance of getting under the top 8. So how do you see this game going?
I'm gonna go with a Villa 1-2-0.
Follow 1-2-0. Barcelona against Atalanta is going to be an hour. I think this could be the pick of the games because I think both teams are going to attack. Barcelona in second place on 18 points. They have to win. They have any chance of going above Liverpool in that top spot. And Atalanta are in 7th spot on 14 points. You probably think they nearly won. They secure a top 8 spot. A draw would definitely help. A defeat would definitely leave them vulnerable. They're the likes of Feyenoord, Monaco, and Aston Villa, and Lille and Brest. So there's a whole pile of teams queued up and behind there. So there could be a bit of movement in those kind of sort of 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th down. There's going to be teams with an opportunity there. So Barcelona against Atalanta.
I'm going to go 2-2.
Girona take on Arsenal. Now you have seen Girona. and they were
No,
quite dogged, weren't they? It was only a
yeah,
penalty for Liverpool
yeah.
beat them. Arsenal sitting in third. For them to finish in the top two, they have to win. They have a chance of going above Barcelona. They would need Barcelona, then they lose as well. So I think Arsenal, it's all about holding on the third spot, really. I think, unless Barcelona lose, a draw for Barcelona is unlikely for Arsenal because I think they would have to win by 4 goals in
Um,
Girona. So
I'll go 2-0 Arsenal.
I think Arsenal may well rotate because I don't think
Yeah.
there's any. I think they'll be just resigned. They finished in the top 8, so I think Arsenal could rotate quite a few players. Man City against Club Brugge, huge game. A draw for Brugge will probably be enough. They secured that passage through to the knockouts. Man City have to win to stay in the Champions League next for the second part of the season.
I'll go 3-1. Man City.
PSV against Liverpool. Interestingly, looking at the odds here, I'm not sure if Slot done a press conference today, or is it tomorrow?
Tomorrow, I think.
But Liverpool are they're not odds on, so that tells me there's maybe some information that Slot's going to retake quite a few players in this game.
I don't really. This game's sort of a dead rubber, so I'll just go 1-1.
Yeah, draw would secure top spot for Liverpool. This is an interesting one. Stuttgart against PSG. Stuttgart are in 24th spot. PSG are in 22nd. So if there is a loser in this game, it could likely mean they go out of the Champions League. So
Yeah.
this is interesting.
I'll go PSG 2-1.
PSG were quite impressive at falling against Man City, you know.
They were this is what I mean with PSG. Like now that they don't have quote unquote superstars, like they're more of a team. It sort of feels like.
Let's go on to Thursday. Europa League. Somewhere they're all kicking off at one time again, 8 o'clock. Interesting game, this one. Steaua Bucharest, FC. I think that's Steaua Bucharest, FCSB. They are in 8th position. So they're just holding on to that last automatic spot, and they're playing Man United in 4th. It's in Bucharest. So Bucharest are probably going to have to win this game. They secure their spot into the top 8. And if they were to beat United could find themselves in a playoff spot if the likes of Galatasaray and Bodo Glimt won. So this is a big game for United. A draw for United will probably be enough to secure a top 8 spot.
I can't see anything but a United one, but I'm going to go 2-0 Man United.
Rangers against Julian San Jose. That's USG. You played them last year, I believe. Rangers are sitting 13th and more or less qualified. A draw to secure a playoff spot. A win would be unlikely to find them in the top 8. They would still probably miss out. So it's just about securing a draw for Rangers, really.
I'll go 2-1 Rangers.
And the last game we're going to look at here is Spurs against Elfsborg. And dearie me, they're heavily favoured to win this game. They're actually shorter than Man City are. They won this game, so I think that tells you more about Elfsborg than it does about Spurs. Elfsborg at the moment do sit, and they're actually in 20th position with 10 points, so they've done quite well. But they'll probably have to get a result here to stay in that automatic spot. Spurs are currently 1 point above Galatasaray in 9th. Spurs sit 6th. So Spurs need to win this game to confirm their spot in the top 8.
I'll go 2-0 Spurs. Like surely they can't lose to Elfsborg.
What we'll do is when these games are all finished and we see the playoff round draw, we'll try and predict where we think our winners are going to be at these competitions. But and that takes us up to the end of the show. It's been great to have you on. There's been a lot of talk about Spurs, of course, so it was important we come on to speak about them. And of course, this week finishes off the European league phase campaigns for groups. So we're going to see who's going to make it to the next round, who's going to have a playoff, and who is going to be going out. It'll be interesting to see what happens on Wednesday and Thursday night. And then I'm assuming there must be draws on Friday or else Monday for these playoff rounds. Or is there a
I've no
draw
idea.
needed? I'm not sure what way it works.
I've no idea. I'll check here now. I'll just say when. I'll check to see when.
There might not even be a draw. It might just be plucked out because of the way it's done. It might just be you must play a certain team where you finish. I don't know.
It's a playoff Champions League draw. It could be just automated on where you finish. But it's going to be an interesting week of football anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, big games they come at the weekend, so we'll be back on probably on Friday evening. They review all the European action and look ahead. What's going to be a huge week of football, and I think a huge week for Spurs and Ange Postecoglou. Of course, Brentford away on Sunday in the league, Liverpool away next Thursday in the League Cup, and Aston Villa away the following Sunday in the FA Cup.
Tough running games.
Three tough places to go, but if Spurs are serious about changing their season around, it's going to be next week. That's going to be the week it has to happen. James, it's a fantastic show as always. Thanks, James, for your continued support. I want to thank everyone who's commented tonight. There's been a lot of chatter in the box, so always good to have if you're new around here, make sure to put your comments in them. We can always put them on screen. If you want to ask us a question, we can always try and answer it to the best of our ability.
Haven't heard from Stefan in a while. Is he all right?
No, he's off the grid. He's completely not reachable. I'll see if I can get a hold of him. We'll get him on because I've seen him on Twitter. He's bantering a lot of Spurs fans, so he'll not mind chatting about Spurs, I'd say. But Owen, thanks for coming on. Thanks for everyone that's watched. Thanks for all your comments. And we'll be back towards the end of the week. If you're new around here, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more content. We'll be back as soon as Friday. Thanks very much for watching.